Welcome everybody, this is Mr. Ndabezita once again, and if you remember very well, this is where we left off in the previous tutorial. So I am going to get rid of everything that we have in here, and this time we are going to look at try exception in Python. So it is very important that we will try by all means to understand exactly what is happening. So there will be some other time where you write your code and your code may throw in some errors, and you might want to take care of these errors when they occur and try to do something. So I'm going to give you an example of such a code. So what we are going to do inside of our try block, so you will say try, and inside of your try block you put in whatever code that may be able to throw some error in there. So let me just say executing try block. Very good. Let me just say trying or executing try block there. And then this is the code that I have inside of my try block, and I'm going to raise an exception. So I'm going to raise an exception, and what is this exception that I'm going to raise? I'm going to say my error message. So this is the code that I'm going to write in there. And then secondly, as you can see, the indentation moves to the other side, and I'm going to say exception, and then I will say exception s, and I'm going to use the letter E there. Very, very important. And let me show you something. When I say exception and then I type in E there, so what is this E? Let us hover over here and check. So this is an exception, right? And then what I'm going to do there, I'm going to say print and just say catching an error. Very good. So this is the statement that I'm going to say, and then I'm going to print out an E. Very, very important. So what am I doing here? Inside of my try, I have a print statement, so it will print out this. Very, very important. So it will say executing the try block, because inside of your try you put in the code that might be able to throw in some error there. So you will say try, put in the code, you will raise an exception, and as you can see, that exception is a reserved Python keyword, and then my error message there. So my error message, what will it say? So you raise an exception, and then this is my error message, exception, and then you will say exception there, SE, and E is a letter that carries out an exception. It's an object, and then you are printing out catching an error, and then it will be able to print that message. So the first thing is this try, which says executing a try block, and then secondly it will print out catching an error, and then it will print out my error message. Very, very important. You have a first print executing try block, you have a second print catching an exception, and then you are printing E, which is a message of an exception, my error message. So this is exactly what is happening here. Please, it is very important that in your try you have a code, there it is, print, and then you raise an exception, my error message, exception, except, an exception as an E, and then you print a message catching an error, and then you are printing my error message. So let us try to run this and check. Executing a try block, catching an error, my error message, just as we have said. But this does not clearly give us a very deeper functionality of try and exception. So let me get rid of this. Let's go to object-oriented programming. And we want to use this principle of try exception. So I'm going to have a class which I'm going to call a person. And the person will define a function which is called get underscore age. And the function method will accept no parameters, and what it will do, it will return the private member. So I'm going to say self dot underscore age. Very, very important. This is highly important. Right, so when I say I am defining a function get underscore age, so this will be regarded, remember, as a private member. We use underscore prefix as a way of showing that we are dealing with a private member. So in here it will get the private member, and via the set it will be able to get hold of the private member. So here I'm going to define a set underscore age, and this method will accept one argument because it is a set, and I'm going to call this an age value. And then in here what I'm going to do, I'm going to run a check. I'm going to say if age value it's less than 0, then what is it that I want to do there? Then I want to raise an exception. So I'm going to raise, capital E, I'm going to raise an exception. And what will the message be? It is going to just say age cannot be less than 0. Very good. And then secondly, I'm going to say self dot underscore age, and then I'm going to assign it a value of the age value. So very important. So self dot underscore age, and as you can see there where it is pointing to, there it is pointing to that. So when you set the set, when you call this function, you are setting an age, it will take that age and it will be able to return that age via the set. We have dealt with this, nothing is new in here. And then secondly, I'm going to define a function which I will call get underscore name, and I'm going to pass in self there. And then remember, it is a get, it is supposed to return self dot underscore name. Get, okay, this is self dot get. No, remember we said this is going to return set dot underscore name. Very important. And then I'm going to define a set underscore name, and then it will accept an argument which will be the name value in there. And then what is it that it's going to do? self dot underscore name is equals to the name value that was passed in. Very, very good that we understand that. So return, let's get rid of that so that everything points in correctly there. So everything seems to be fine there. So we have a get name and a set name function there. And then now let me have a constructor. So I'm going to define a constructor in there. Oh, sorry. Let me do this. Very good. So let me define a constructor in there. And this constructor is going to accept two things. It will be the user name value, and secondly the age value there, so that I can via the setter I can be able to assign the value of the username and the age of this individual, right? And then what am I going to do? I'm going to pass in something. So I'm going to say self dot underscore name. There it is equals to the user name value that was passed in. Self dot underscore, there it is age, and it will be equals to the age value that was passed in there. So nothing is new in here. Everything that we are doing in here, it's very, very new. In fact, even if I don't want to use the equal sign in there, what I can do in there, I can do this, and then I can just say username value there. And even in here, what I can do, I can just say the age value in there. Very good. And then now I'm going to have my try block. So I'm going to come here and say try, and I'm going to try and create a person object, and this is equals to a person. But I know I have a constructor that accepts two things. So the first one, I'm going to say Papa Fanzito the mathematician, and then I'm going to assign a value of -12. This is what I'm going to do. And then now let's see. Now remember, I have a try, I must have an except, and then I should have there an exception. Remember, as I can give it an alphabet of E there. And then now I'm going to have a print. Now the first print will say object creation failed, and then now I will print E. Sorry, let me not say E, let me just say very quickly, let me say string E, because that is a string that will be printed out there for me. And what will that string say? It will say age cannot be less than 0. So this is the message I will have. Let us try to run this and see whether it will work, so that I can explain what is happening here. Object creation failed. Person object has no attribute underscore name. Okay, let me see now what is happening. I have provided a username value there. So let me check where the problem might have occurred. So person object has no attribute underscore name. Give Okay, let me see whether I have assigned something correctly there. So age value, there it is, age equals the age value, and then get name underscore name, and then it will return self dot name, and then let me see here. So this is equals to that. So let us try to check in our constructor in here. Okay, let me fix out something here in the constructor. So in the constructor there, let's say self dot set, let's set underscore name, and this will be equals to the username value, and then secondly let's say self dot set age, and then let me pass in the age value. Very important. So that was the mistake that I have done. Let's try to run things and see the let me see, self dot set underscore age equals age value there. Okay, indentation, very good. Right, let us try to run this. Everything is working fine now. Object creation failed, age cannot be less than 0. So I am working on an environment where I don't have enough light, so the laptop is very dim. I don't see very clearly in here, but let me show you what we have tried to do. Let me just try to clean up the laptop. Things are a little bit better now. I'm working outside, it's very dusty, so there are dust particles everywhere on the screen. So let me show you what we have done here. Nothing is new in here. We have a get and a set for age, a get and a set for the name. Nothing is new. We have dealt with this. I have a constructor that accepts in username, and the age, I'm setting that via the setter. I'm passing in the name and the age. Nothing it's mysterious about this. Now let us look at the try. Look at where I have placed my try block. So let me just show you where I have my try. So here I am. If the age that you are trying to assign there, it's a value that is negative, I'm raising an exception and I'm printing out a message that age cannot be less than 0. And then here self.age, I am assigning that to a value. So if the value of age is not less than 0, it will take it and assign it there. Whereas if it is, then unfortunately it will raise an exception. But I'm not creating any conditions for the name, because the name has to be strictly a string in there. And then I know this is where the problem will occur. So I'm having my try block where I know there might be a possibility of throwing in an error. And please try to see in here. In here, I am raising an exception. If the age is less than 0, I'm raising an exception. I'm not having a try block inside of my if in here. Very important. Where am I having this try? I know that if you try to instantiate a person object and the value is negative, that's where I will have my try block. Try, when you try to create an object instance of type person, accept exception as an E, it will print object creation failed, and then it will go to the print string E, and where is that message? There it is. You raised an exception, age cannot be less than 0. And this is how you can use try exception in object-oriented programming. So this is something very simple that I wanted to share with you guys, and I will see you wonderful people in the next tutorial.